Very much. Now we have 7 agencies left with about 45 minutes. Do you want to do the whole 7 for 6 minutes, or do you want to let some go?
Let's go.
Let's go.
Be very quick.
Righto. I'll call Australian Maritime Safety Authority.
We might need people, given it's a 6-minute succession, that if
they could sort of
line yourself up.
Thank you. Get ready.
Everyone come in. You're sitting out there listening anyway. Is there one on
Right,
tenders
well, we
here?
welcome officers from Australian Maritime Safety Authority, and we will go straight to questions for about 5 minutes. Senator Canavan?
Thank you very much. I just want to ask about a tender titled Aids to Navigation Maintenance and Level 1 Emergency Towage Capability. It apparently relates to lighthouses and beacons and so forth. I understand it's the second time you have issued this tender, is that right?
No, Senator. We approached... Senator Mick Kinley, Chief Executive Officer of Australian Maritime Safety Authority. We did an expression of interest firstly, and then we went to the market in the open tender.
So this is more RFP now, is it? Or you did the EOI?
Well, we did the EOI, and then we
right.
actually did the proper tender, which is still technically live, that process.
Right. And so you provided more detail in this one, have you, to a shortlisted group or after the EOI?
The EOI was basically to see that there was a market there that we could test, and we could go to that broader market.
Right.
And then we went and put out the actual detail.
So you haven't shortlisted anyone through the EOI or anything like that?
No, we didn't. I'll just ask Mr Morrow to correct me if I'm wrong there. But
No, that's correct. Mark Morrow, Executive Director,
Australian Maritime Safety Authority. There was a broad range of
interest. In that EOI, then no one really applied to do the work, did they? It was more just an exploratory.
That's right.
Give us some information.
It gave us a sense of what was in the market.
Okay, all right. And now you're asking for people to actually put in detailed tenders.
Well, we've been through the process. It's,
okay.
And we're in the middle still of the broader combined procurement.
Okay. It was apparently reported in Daily Cargo News that AMSA are pursuing an alternative strategy to maintain the network of aids to navigation. Is this the alternative strategy? Or?
No.
What's that in regards to then?
Well, I believe that was a comment made by someone from one of the tenders.
Right.
So I can't give you context on what that was about.
So, yeah, right. Okay.
Who held this contract in the past?
a company called AMSG, Australian Maritime Systems Group. They held it since the work was originally outsourced by AMSA back around 2000. It's been to market, I think this is about the third or fourth time. And so the current incumbent, that contract still runs until the 30th of June next year. We've not found a suitable contractor at this stage, and I assume the questions are probably coming to you from the incumbent who's not happy about the outcome.
I wouldn't make any assumptions. I've only just read about it the first time myself, but we always learn something with estimates. Moving on, the government has announced plans, at least started some consultation on a strategic fleet, establishing a strategic fleet to improve our national security. Apparently a report was handed to the government on the 30th of June, although we haven't, I don't think, seen much else since then. I just wanted to check, were you involved at all with the consultations leading up to the report? Were you invited to make a submission, or did you have any
Senator, we didn't make a submission. I think we were involved in discussions around training of seafarers, but our involvement has been
So the government, the Minister's Office didn't, or the Department didn't invite you to make a submission?
No, I don't.
No.
Not that I recall, and so our involvement's been minimal.
Right, okay. But you have, when did you do those, when did you have those discussions in regards to safety of seafarers?
I would have to go and take that on notice. During the time the report was being prepared. So
Since the final report, have you been involved in any consultation about the implementation recommendations or some such? So since the 30th of June, that would be.
Since the 30th of June, I know we have seen some paperwork kicking around about potential responses, but that was cabinet in confidence in my recollection.
Right. Okay. Do you anticipate the need for any more resources for AMSAR?
Not for AMSA at this stage, Senator.
Okay. That's it, Chair. Thank you. Unless there are
Thank you,
other
Senator
questions.
Canavan. If there's no further questions, thank you, gentlemen. We'll let you go. There's your 6 minutes. And we'll now call Infrastructure Australia.
Up front.
You're going to go with it?
Yep.
I think we've got it all the wrong way around. We should have all the agencies first.
You got infrastructure.
I'm sorry, did you have something for?
That's right, mate.
Oh, okay. Now I'm
Thank
going
you.
to
Good to see you,
welcome
gentlemen.
officers from Infrastructure Australia. Questions?
Thank you. Has Minister King referred any projects to Infrastructure Australia for assessment this year?
Not formally by the Minister. We generally receive projects from proponent state and territory governments.
But the Minister hasn't forwarded any projects for you to assess. What new projects have been referred from states and territories for assistance assessment since the May budget? Now, usually it's Mr Tucker that reads me out a list.
Sure. Mr Tucker.
I'm David Tucker. I'm Chief of Project Advisor and Evaluation.
And motivation.
Evaluation.
Sorry, it's getting late. I went, wow. That's a restructure I didn't see coming.
Since the May budget, we've engaged with proponents on a number of proposals at different stages of project development.
Yes, so sorry, because you've got 6 minutes and I've got 6 questions.
Sure.
What projects were referred to IA from the states and territories since the May budget?
So we have 2 active business case evaluations. One is for the M1 Pacific motorway from Daisy Hill to Logan in Queensland, and the other is on the Bruce Highway, Dolly's Rocks Road to Anzac Avenue.
And these were referred, obviously, by the Queensland government post the May budget?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Earlier today we'd heard there'd been a $3 billion reduction in road and rail infrastructure payments by the Commonwealth between October 22 budget and the 30th of June 23 close of books. Has the IA noticed any impact on capacity constraints in the civil construction sector of the government's delays to infrastructure projects and the 176-day review of the IIP, that hold that we've put on more than 400 projects?
We are currently finalising our market capacity report for this year. We have seen...
So what does the draft say on your desk?
Yeah, we have seen some amelioration of demand across all levels of government.
So what does that mean to people staying up very late at home?
We've had seen some lowering of demand.
Yep.
But it is still more than the supply that we see in our model. So,
and you've consulted heavily with the civil construction sector?
We absolutely did. We did a very wide-ranging survey with the civil contractors. Mr Brogan, do you want to expand on that?
Steve Brogan, Chief of Policy and Research. No, nothing further to add with the Civil
Wonderful.
Contractors Federation.
Efficiency personified, IA, always. What is the current situation with regard to infrastructure capacity constraints in Australia?
What is the situation?
Yeah. Is there some areas of capacity that have gotten worse, some have gotten better over time since COVID?
We haven't had feedback from industry that the situation has gotten better through those surveys. The evidence is pointing towards an emphasis needed to be placed on improving construction productivity.
Oh, how's that going?
For 30
Feeding
years,
that into the loop?
For 30 years, the Australian Bureau of Statistics multi-factor measure on productivity shows that the sector is stagnant in terms of productivity, so there's a lot of work to be done.
Would you recommend writing productivity gains in conjunction with wage rises within the construction sector go together so that it's not one side of the equation over the other?
The areas that we think will improve productivity the most include diversity in teams, so with 14%
More women.
of women in the sector.
Yep. What else?
New technologies, increasing the uptake of new technologies, modern methods of construction, modular construction, off-site construction, better use of data, better use of digital platforms. There's plenty of
In the planning phase, the digital platform specifically?
throughout the life cycle
Yep.
of the project, so planning
Excellent.
as well.
Could you please provide an update to the extent to which the Victorian Government is supplying evidence to support an assessment of the suburban rail loop project?
We've had one conversation since the last estimates. It was really just an update on current status.
And what's the update? What's the current status?
Just that they're continuing to develop the options analysis.
Wow. So nothing to see here. No new evidence. Have we got a business case? Does it stack up?
We don't have a business case, so
Do we have a response to the scathing Auditor General's report?
that wouldn't be given to us. I'm not sure if that's gone public or if they have publicly responded
Yeah.
to it.
Okay, thank you. Nothing more from me.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. We now call... Oh, no, I'm sorry. Senator Roberts. My
Thank you.
apologies.
Thank you for appearing today. The Senate inquiry into the project known as Iron Boomerang recommended that Infrastructure Australia contact the project sponsor, East West Line Parks, to advance the project in the normal manner. Did you do that? And if so, where's the project at?
We have fed into the government response to that report. We are happy to discuss the project with the proponent. However, it would need to be referred to us for a formal assessment by an Australian government, so the Australian government or one of the state or territory governments.
So it needs referral?
Yes.
Okay. The East West Rail proposal was accompanied in the committee process by a proposal for a multi-function corridor next to the rail line to bring power, water and internet to remote communities right across the top end, mostly Aboriginal communities. Have you looked at that proposal? Do you need more information?
David, did you want to talk about that?
We haven't undertaken an independent view. We would need more information. We'd be reliant on the proponent to provide that information to us.
Okay, I'm very interested in advancing the multi-function corridor even as a separate project to the rail line. How would we go about doing that?
We would be happy to meet with the proponent. However, as I said on the other project, we would need to have it referred for a formal assessment by an Australian government.
Okay, what is a proponent? I know someone proposing the scheme. Does it need to be formally organised?
Yeah, so you would need to have the support of a state government or the Australian government who would then refer it to us formally.
Thank you. That would be very important to the people of the Northern Territory, Northern Western Australia and North Queensland, but we'll move on. Speaking of North Queensland, does Infrastructure Australia have any documents on the project formerly known as the Tully Millstream Hydro Project? I think it's now called the Coombalumba Hydro Project.
No, sir.
So you've got no information at all on it?
We haven't received any information.
650 megawatts of dispatchable hydropower in a partially completed project abandoned for no good reason that I can see. So you've got nothing on that, even in the filing cabinet mark killed for political reasons?
We don't have a filing cabinet marked.
You don't
like
have
that.
It's too late. Overtime.
Next question, also in, semi-North Queensland. Is Infrastructure Australia working on Premier Palaszczuk's Pioneer Valley Stored Hydro Project?
No, Senator.
That project has a $6 billion price tag. I would have thought infrastructure... Yeah. I don't think we've seen the end of that one, Senator Canavan. I would have thought Infrastructure Australia would have been asked for their expertise on such a challenging project.
We haven't, Senator.
That was a dig, sir.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Thank you, Infrastructure Australia. We now call...
Can I just ask, I'm sorry,
Yeah, Senator
have you been asked to do work on the Cairns water project?
Oh, good question.
And water or border?
Water? Sorry, I did miss what the option was, but water.
Water.
Cairns water project, 107.5 million committed at the last election, but they haven't heard anything. I'm wondering if you've been asked to do anything on it.
We only assess projects that are seeking over $250 million of Commonwealth funding, so we might not see that.
Thank you.
That answers that.
I have a follow-up. Sorry, Chair. Do you have any idea why the Minister doesn't want to pass the Infrastructure Australia bill, doesn't want to put it to the Senate?
You would have to ask the Minister, Senator.
What's the reason, Assistant Minister? You've got these fabulous entity. She's wants to reform Infrastructure Australia. Why won't she put it into the Senate?
It's still on the notice paper. Well, it has been in the Senate, and it's still on the notice paper, and we're negotiating.
I spoke on it 2 months ago.
Do you think we'll vote on it before the end of the year, Minister?
As I said, we're negotiating with the crossbench, but I hope so, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Now can they go?
Yes.
Right. Okay, Australian Rail Track Corporation.
Look at this, working so quickly.
You can open the batting if you like, Senator Roberts.
Be very quick.
Don't fight over the seats, gents. You've just lost a minute.
Right. Welcome officers from the Australian Rail Track Corporation. Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for appearing tonight. My question is about inland rail. The original route over the Condamine floodplain and building a new multi-billion-dollar dedicated rail crossing of the Toowoomba Range just to send freight to the Port of Brisbane appears dead. We are now talking about terminating the line at the Port of Gladstone. Are both those assumptions correct?
Thanks, Senator. I might just start, Robert. Wayne Johnson, Acting CEO, RTC. Just want to introduce Robert Rust, Acting CEO, Inland Rail, with us tonight as a colleague. And I might hand to yourself in terms of the question specific.
Thank you, Senator. The Inland Rail goes from Beveridge in Victoria to Ebenezer in Queensland as double stack, and then to Kangaroo as a single stack. That's the official route and extent of it.
Okay, so it's not going to Gladstone?
No, the Inland
Rail. Still going down the
not.
Toowoomba Range. Okay, thank you.
That's a matter for government, isn't it?
The Queensland Government has had a new railway line on their books for years to connect Banana in the Port of Gladstone rail network to Wandoan in the Brisbane Regional Rail Network. Is Infrastructure Australia aware of any progress on that missing link, allowing freight to come up to the Port of Gladstone along an inland route?
Inland Rail is not aware of that link, or may be aware of it, but that's not part of our scope.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Senator Roberts.
Yes. Earlier I questioned the department on particularly the North of Parks issues. They kept saying ask ARTC later on tonight. They're the delivery agent. I'm hoping someone actually listened to that evidence. Did anyone, or am I going to have to go back through my notes? Mr. Johnson?
We heard the question, Senator.
Excellent. Would you like to answer them?
So in regards to North of Parks, I'll just ask Robert to talk about the phasing of the program, about where we are now.
The current statement of expectations requires us to carry out work to the south of Parks, and north of Parks we are to continue to investigate in and around the route, to develop planning approvals.
Yes, no, we got all that. We got all the statement of expectations stuff. I want to understand the actual timeline of delivery. I want to understand if there's been any change to the Moree Special Activation Precinct as a result of or following the government's decision to subject the Inland Rail project to an independent review.
The timing of delivery of north of Parks is to be determined ultimately by government. Our task is to develop the design such that we can provide time and cost certainty, and we'll provide that to government for their ultimate decision and approval.
So what engagement has the ARTC had with local government along the route of the Inland Rail regarding the outcomes of the SHOT review?
Senator, what I'm aware of at this point.
Well, because the department says, oh, that's the ARTC's job, so I've got you now. Who have you met with?
So
post-SHOT review.
Specifically, in the Inland Rail review, which we are working very hard on at this moment, continuing, since the last time we appeared here, we've set up the subsidiary,
Yep.
We have a chair and a board in place,
Yep.
and a number of the actions. The recommendation 19 is to do with regional development.
Yep.
And a number of those activities, which are largely facilitated and focused from the states. The Inland Rail team have consulted with a number of those regional areas up and down the alignment of Inland Rail since the review.
Yep.
And the particular area that you talk to is an area called Stage 2C at Moree. That work has continued to be assessed, and continued piece of work between the Inland Rail team and the department at this point. There is no further progress on what our final plans on Stage 2C are at this point. We'll be working through that with the likes of Moree in the course of the coming months.
Okay, well, maybe on notice, can you provide a list of meetings and comms held with the affected local government authorities? There seemed to be some debate around the costings, the difference between what the ARTC thinks it'll cost, what Dr Schott thinks it costs. When you talk to Dr Schott, the figures she was given from the department are a bit rubbery, needed more work, etc. Can somebody help me understand this?
Yes, Senator. Dr Schott, in her review, asked the Inland Rail team to provide information on the ultimate cost of the Inland Rail project. That figure was provided, and that from memory was $31 billion.
31.
I think Dr Schott expressed some concern about that cost because of the lack of definition and the uncertain time frame around delivery.
No, I'm aware of the problem. Given the time frame, I'm asking how we're going on the solution, the forensic examination of cost accounting that was going to go on.
I think Dr Schott indicated that we need a certainty around the scope, and that's precisely what we're doing. So to the north of Parkes, we are continuing with the process of developing the planning approval documents, continuing to refine the design.
How much is it going to cost, Mr Rust? Where is the discrepancy? I understand where the EISs still need to go, north of North Star, etc., etc., etc. I'm trying to understand how we've got a $31 billion, why you've been instructed to get a more accurate figure, and what you're doing to actually get that figure.
We are refining the design so that we can get a proper understanding of scope and time to deliver once we've done that, and that is dependent on getting planning approvals through, which have...
So you won't be able to give a final cost until you've got all the planning approvals, the EIS is done, etc. That's going to take some time.
Depending on what accuracy, but yes, until such time as we've done that, we will not be providing a final cost.
So there'll be no reconciliation between a figure that even the reviewer says is rubbery.
Ultimately, there will be a reconciliation.
Wow. Okay. I'm requesting a formal briefing from the ARTC about the cost of Inland Rail, and I want a lot more time than I have tonight to actually understand what you're actually doing about it, because your reputation as a delivery agent, it's not something you've ever done before, fair enough, but now a government is relying on your figures, and you haven't filled me with confidence tonight that you're actually able to deliver on that. Have you got anything to add, Mr Johnson?
Just what Mr Rust's view, albeit south of Parkes, those costs and projects are well in motion. So I think Mr Rust has referred to north of Parkes.
But my concern is, after what I've just heard here, you're not able to actually give us decent costings. I understand it'll all be a little rubbery around the edges, plus or minus, but I'm not confident we're going to see better or more detailed or more robust costings for a couple of years, from what I've just heard tonight. Is that an accurate depiction of what I've just heard?
Senator, depending on the progress we make in dealing with the planning authorities and the certainty we get.
Given your experience, Mr Rust, how do you reckon you're going to go with that? What timeframes do you think you'd put on that?
At any time you can provide a cost. It depends on the amount of allowance you need to provide for uncertainties. at the moment. I think Dr. Schott's identified that the biggest issue on Inland Rail has been timing, and so once we get a proper feeling for the time taken to deliver the project, we'll be able to provide a cost in a far more accurate manner.
Who's running the sub-entity? Mr. Johnson?
Robert is.
Mr. Rusty. So sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry, Chair. So sorry. So Dr. Schott recommends, because the ARTC does what it does really well, has never done this before, we're going to set up a sub-entity to actually be oversee the delivery. And Mr. Rust, you're in charge of that bit of this project.
I'm chairing
I formally request a briefing from the ARTC on this, so we can get into the weeds. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'll just say that's Senator McKenzie as an individual senator, not the committee.
Yes.
Okay.
As the Shadow Minister.
Just a very, very quick one. I was at the ALC. Sorry, you won't know, Mr. Russ. It's not your fault. I'll go to you, Mr. Ormsby, as the one with the longest serving time here. At the ALC conference in Brisbane earlier in May, on the tables there were lip balms provided by the ARTC. You know about them?
Wow.
No, Senator, no. You don't know about them?
No, I don't.
Take it on notice. Come back in February and we'll talk about lip balm. Okay.
What's the question?
Lip balms, you know, like.
Why are you sponsoring lip balms is the question.
So I'll let you get your feet under the table. Come back to us and we'll have a chat about it. All right, that's ARTC, so thank you very much. No other further questions? No? Okay, and now call... whoever's next on the list. Let me see. All me mates from the NHVR. And I say that with the greatest of respect.
Along with everyone.
I have to declare of interest. I've spent too much time with Mr. Petrosino over the last couple of years. And his faithful offsider, Mr. Smith. Well, Mr. Petrosino, welcome. We haven't got time for opening statements, so questions.
Thank you, Chair. The annual report for 22-23 indicates that NVHR did not meet its target for the number of operators accredited. What was the reason?
You'd be referring to our NHVS accreditation scheme, Senator.
Yes, I am.
The industry is actually getting more safer and more compliant. NHVS is a voluntary scheme. It's not a compulsory scheme. It's actually up to an operator to decide whether they wish to be in the scheme. What we've seen over the period is that the industry is actually, as it becomes safer, it doesn't need some of those scheme requirements, hence why those numbers weren't met.
What actions have you taken to actually deal with that?
We're reviewing NHVS as part of the law review currently, Senator. There will be ultimately probably a new accreditation framework which we develop as part of the implementation of the HVNL. We're also internally looking at how we review the current scheme to make it, I wouldn't say more attractive, but actually more appealing to an operator to determine the benefits that they see. And once again, it's a voluntary scheme. So we are looking internally to improve our processes and make it easier for the industry to join those accreditation frameworks.
And when do you envisage that that would be operational?
Well, there's two pieces in your question.
Yep.
First, there's the review of the HVNL, which is being undertaken by the NTC, and I'll let them respond to that side of it. In terms of the work we're doing, we continue to review the current scheme within the current framework of the HVNL, so that work's ongoing, Senator.
Yep.
So we're currently reviewing advanced fatigue management at the moment to make that easier to get in there. We're reviewing all of our business processes to ensure any of the regulatory burdens that were inherited through the schemes are removed to make it easier. So it's an ongoing process.
Is it slower than you'd like?
Which?
Removing the regulatory burden. No, I hear that.
Not their fault.
No, I agree.
5 years before.
If you're referring to the review of the law, from a regulator's point of view, I would have probably preferred that it would have been quicker. There are challenges that the NTC is dealing with, but we work within the current framework. But a good law allows us to implement it efficiently and effectively. Good law means operators can comply easily, so an expedited outcome to the law would be appreciated by the regulator.
Lovely. Well summed up. Also failed to meet its target for reducing the age of vehicles in the national heavy vehicle fleet. What was the reason for that?
We don't determine when an operator buys a truck.
Yep.
So what we did in that particular indicator was attempt to encourage the reduction of the age of the fleet through either incentives or programs which would entice the industry. But at the end of the day, Senator, it's up to the operator whether their cash flows allow for them to acquire trucks. What we do is facilitate that as part of our sustainability objective in the HVNL.
How often do you meet with your responsible minister?
I have 7 responsible ministers. We're accountable to...
Here we've just found the...
Yes, so we're accountable to all the responsible ministers who are the transport ministers. So it varies, Senator. So we will meet periodically. We've met with each individual state minister this year at the board level. We actively engage with all of the ministerial officers. We're a unique entity. We're not accountable to a minister. We're accountable to the shareholding ministers.
And so you would present to Transport Minco?
When we are asked to attend, we would.
Okay. How often are you asked to attend?
If the agenda requires us to be there, Senator, we will be. We haven't been required to be.
In the last 12 months?
We haven't been required to attend.
Right. Thank you. Where are the NVHR executives located?
Currently, my senior executive team that reports to me is located in Queensland. And the reason they are located in Queensland, we are still an establishing organisation, so we're evolving as an organisation. We're in the process of transitioning state functions to the regulator. So in the desire to create an entity that could deliver for the industry, my executives are based in Queensland at this point in time. As we review our operational arrangements and as positions become available, we seek to deploy probably senior executives to other parts of the country.
Thank you so much. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, Senator.
Sorry, not enough time to get into the weeds.
You're right.
Thanks,
Senator, we'll let you go. Thank you very much. Safe travels. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Okay, Australian Transport Safety Bureau. Welcome, Mr Mitchell. You understand we're under time constraints, so I'm going to go straight to questions. Senator
Thank
McKenzie.
you. For how many days was there a vacancy on the ATSB board as a result of Mr Manning's term expiring?
Angus Mitchell, Chief Commissioner of the ATSB. It was a couple of weeks, I think around about 3 weeks, between the expiration of Mr Manning's tenure and the appointment of the new Aviation Commissioner, Mr Peter Wilson.
And how many board meetings were held during the period that Mr Manning's position was vacant?
No board meetings. It wasn't a board as such. So the Commission meets 4 times a year. We hold fortnightly phone meetings, but in that period of transition, there was no scheduled quarterly meeting.
So no fortnightly meeting happened in the 3 weeks?
There would probably have been a fortnightly meeting, so each is more of a catch-up with myself and the other commissioners.
So there's no decisions of substance taken at those fortnightly meetings?
Fortnightly meetings aren't decision-making meetings.
Are there the fortnightly meetings subject to quorum provisions?
Because they are merely catch-ups, there's not a quorum component that goes with them. The quorum component goes with the quarterly meetings, and there was no quarterly meetings in that period.
Thank you. And on what date did the ATSB advise the Minister or the Department that Mr Manning's term was due to expire and to reappoint or a new appointment process would be required?
I would have to take on notice the exact date, but it was around about 6 months prior to the expiration.
Yes, Senator Patrick Hornby, General Counsel. We will have to take that on notice. It is a matter that's also handled by the department with the appointment of commissioners as well.
Yes, I'm asking what you did, not what the department...
Senator, I can take that on notice.
So I want to know, when did ATSB advise the department or the Minister of Mr Manning's upcoming need to be either reappointed or a new appointment process to be instigated?
Yes, Senator, we'll take that on notice for the exact dates.
So the appointments, though, are fixed periods. So the expiration date was known from 3 years ago, from when it was first appointed. It was somewhere in the vicinity of 6 months prior to allow the process to be followed.
Takes time. And you need to give them a little hurry along, or anyway, you'll take all that on notice. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Travel safe, gentlemen. I'll let you go. National Australia Infrastructure Facility.
National Transport Commission? No.
Last.
No, first.
No,
that's
Nave.
Susan. Oh, I don't have it. And there's no NAF questions in my phone.
You want to let Nave go?
No.
No, Susan.
Some questions.
Sorry? So she's here. So for 5 minutes or 4 minutes, Senator McDonald?
4 minutes.
9 minutes?
No, we got no. Well, hang on.
I just need 1 minute.
No. I've got a question the NTC.
Would you want to start, Chair? Do you want to start?
No, NTC.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
So you go now, and then we'll have 5 minutes.
Hello. Welcome. Great to see you. As always, I'm going to ask about staff. I'll ask that you just provide that, at the end of the meeting, just to save time tonight. I want to ask you about when did you table the NAIF annual report? Well, I'm told that it was tabled on the 26th of September and it's just been tabled today. Are you aware of any reason why it's taken a month to get from the Tables Office to the Senate?
Yeah, thanks, Senator. Our board meeting was on the 26th of September. By the time it came from the printers, it got back around the 11th or 12th of October, so it was still with NAIF then.
Right, so NAIF should have received it about the 12th of October and would have gone to the Minister about then?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. Are you aware of any reason why it sat in the Minister's office for 2 weeks? Were you asked a lot of extra questions about it, or...?
No.
No, nothing like that? All right. I've obviously not had a chance to look at the annual report, so I apologise, but I do want to ask you about drawdowns since we talked last.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly the number since we talked last, but for the last financial year, the drawdowns were just under 600 million. We'd done 813 million for the 6 years prior and 600 last year. And in some good news, there's nearly 300 has gone out in the last 3 months as well.
All right, that's moving more quickly. And what's the pipeline look like for projects that you're looking to approve?
Yeah, thank you, Senator. So as of the end of September, we have 41 projects in pre-investment pipeline. I won't talk about already investment decisions. You'd have already known about those. If all of those came to fruition, it's just under $4 billion of NAIF loan value and $14.5 billion of project value. And we have 16 projects in due diligence at the moment.
Great. There was a newspaper report earlier this year about a project in Western Australia for a salt and potash mine. Could you just give the Senate an update on where that's up to, please?
Yeah, I presume it's the Lake Wells potash project, Senator. So that one reached investment decision, I think, in 2021. As you would know, our processes, it reaches investment decision, but we still have to work through our contractual close and our financial close. During that period, the proponent was checking its construction costs and other costs, including the offtake price. And they've decided not to proceed. So they've withdrawn, as per their ASX announcement, they've decided to withdraw and not progress with the project. So no NAIF money was at risk because we didn't reach financial close.
Right, okay. And that wasn't anything to do with the change of legislation about the climate change provisions in NAIF's funding?
Not that I know of. No, the ASX announcement was pretty clear around cost increases and other factors.
Okay. Have you advised at the May estimates of 3 projects reaching contractual close? Have any other projects reached contractual close since the 19th of June?
Good question. I know there was 5 projects that reached contractual close last financial year.
Yep.
And I'm not sure since June whether there's been another one. no contractual close in the last 3 or 4 months.
Okay, thank you. And do you have any loans in default?
We have the Callium potash project, which has been it's in an impaired state now. The receivers are there, but we have no others that are impaired.
That is very good news. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Senator McDonald. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll let you go. And finally, wrapping up, National Transport Commission. Oh, excuse me. Right, welcome, Mackenzie, you have a question?
You can.
Just kick off. Yeah, look, thanks very much. Sorry about the lateness. And I noticed that you're still working on the review of the National Heavy Vehicle Law. Where are we up to?
So in June of this year, we released a decision res for the first stage of the review that covered off the simplicity of the law. In October, we released, earlier this month, we released consultation res for matters of fatigue management. And so I might let Aaron continue.
Yeah, so...
just introduce yourself. Sorry,
Aaron De Rosario, Executive Leader, Regulatory Reform at the NTC. As stated earlier, a decision res was approved by ministers on the 9th of June last year. On the 9th of October this year, we released a further consultation res. That consultation res goes into some of the detail, particularly around fatigue management. Certain access-related matters, including changes to mass, length and height, as well as some matters in relation to a national audit standard.
All right, look, I'll be quick, very quickly. I don't expect you, and I'm not going to ask you to take it on notice, we'll ask again. But in your consultation period, I can talk all day about fatigue management, all right? And so I want to know for later when you come back in February, who you have consulted, how long you've consulted. There's a lot of criticism out there, gentlemen, from industry that they're only getting 15 minutes with you or something. You'll be able to defend that. The industry feels like it has just been treated very poorly because of very serious lack of consultation. There's also criticism that, with the greatest of respect, there's no transport operators on the commission. So just take it all in. I'm not poo-pooing you, I just want to know what's going on. I hear it all the time.
I'm happy to do that, Senator. We are in the middle of consultation around some of the fatigue management as part of the res. So
when are you going to come and interview me?
Whenever you like.
Any time. Happy to help. All right, now on saying that, thanks, gentlemen. It is late. Senator Mackenzie, I think. Senator Canavan?
Quick one. I've noticed the National Transport Commission seems to have tripled its spending on consultants in 2022 compared to 2021. I've got a figure of $3.8 million in 2022 and 1.3 in 2021. What were the reasons for that?
That's related to the National Rail Action Plan, Senator. So in 2021, I think ministers approved the National Rail Action Plan with a series of measures and a small amount of additional funding, I think $1.4 million over 2 years. And in June of this year, agreed to stage 2 of that as part of national rail reform, with a $20 million project. We've had to tool up pretty rapidly to be able to deliver some of that. We don't have a lot of in-house rail technical expertise, so we've had to buy a lot of that in, and that's really behind a lot of the consulting budget.
Who did the work, or that work on the National Rail Action Plan?
The consultants are listed on the, I think, if I can give you a, EY was one.
Might have to.
No, it's got
Have we got a minute to go? I think.
Yeah.
Maybe while you're doing it, how much was the? Sounds like you might have had a few contracts or tenders, but
yes,
how much did you spend on the National Rail Action Plan? Or
I can go through that now.
National Rail Action Plan.
So $1.2 million for RISB, the Rail Industry Standards body, $109,000 on the NRAP website.
On the NRAP website?
The National Rail Action Plan.
Oh, right.
$164,000 with Ernst & Young on the National Rail System Interoperability Framework. $218,000 with Ernst & Young to prepare a business case to align train control and signalling. The Infrastructure Advisory Group, $108,000 to provide advice on reducing the regulatory burden of train drivers, crew and maintenance workers in rail. $163,000 for Deloitte to undertake skills analysis, workforce and skills projection and provide us with recommendations. $108,000 to Aerial Consultancy to provide some skills mapping. $192,000 to 9 Squared to provide advice on streamlining rolling stock approvals. So there is an issue at the moment with rolling stock not being approved on different rail infrastructure management networks.